McInnes.
It's me, John Gallagher Portero. Hello, welcome to the show.
This is our weekly We Talk About Improv show. I deliberately transitioned to us talking mid Gallagher speaking because that was fun.
Yes, it's fun to do that because it's not just a boring conversation. We have a little bit of fun. We have a little bit of banter as well.
A little bit of a peek behind the curtain.
Oh, usually we would do a show. We would do myself and McInnes as the Billy Boys, and we'll do an improv show. Our guest today was Roz. She couldn't make this conversation though, but it was a great show, right? I really enjoyed that.
I thought it was good. I thought it was fun.
And usually our guests would stick around, and just talk about improv. We had Mark and we had Philip on to talk about how they got into improv. But it's just us today, which is fine. We can still talk. We've got some.
And we've done this before, so we'll probably keep this one a little bit shorter than usual. But when I say that, Gallagher, we're still going to do like half an hour.
Yeah, we'll do like half an hour, 45 minutes. That's pretty short compared to our hour and 30 minutes as we did just the two of us before. Obviously, after this, you can, if you missed this live stream, if you can't watch anymore, don't worry. We'll put the rest of it up on the Bristol Longform Comedy YouTube channel.
The YouTubes.
Or the YouTubes, as you young people like to call it.
It's not a truck. It's a series of tubes. It's a little reference to Senator Ted Stevens, Alaskan senator, who was trying to make an analogy that I think isn't that bad.
As you've noticed, the banter has started strong, and it will continue on this choo-choo train of comedy.
We almost called this the BLC Banter Bus. Almost.
That's actually I love that name. That is a great name for the show.
No. BLC Improv Discussion. That's much better.
we have to add like something fun in the middle of it.
And the orange does look like a school bus, but no. BLC Improv Discussion, not the BLC Banter Bus.
We'll add Banter Bus in the middle of it.
Yeah, that'll be the informal title.
If anybody has any questions, please put them in the comment section to your right. To your right.
It doesn't matter what side it is. It's not like if it's on your left, they're like, I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, it's just to give people, it's just to give them a very clear indication as to where to put comments. McInnes, if somebody writes a comment in the search bar, they're going to be embarrassed.
Too bad. I'll support their option. If they choose to do that option, I'll support it. Of course, this is the BLC Banter Bus. So during it, I sit back on the sofa, which I don't do during the Billy Boy show. I'm sitting a little bit back because I'm chilling out.
I did notice you're looking especially more chilled today, now that you've lying back a little bit on your sofa.
When I get stressed, I get this impossible to control eye twitch, like my eyelid wiggles around of its own volition.
Is this true?
Yeah, and I hate it. It's a nightmare. I have no control over it, and it's very imperceptible, so not a lot of people will notice it, but I can feel it. And whenever that happens, I'm like, I'm stressed about something. I must be.
Has that ever happened to you in an improv show? Before a show? Post-improv show?
I think so, yeah.
What's the most stressed you've been in an improv show? And why?
That's a good question. The immediate thing coming to mind is like anything where I feel like I need the show to be good. That's not like I have some, like either somebody is in the audience or playing with me that I want to impress, or somebody is in the audience or playing with me who I want to be impressed, who I want them to be impressed by the show. So those are usually the thing. Either like I respect them or I don't respect them. Like I respect them, therefore I want to show that it's good, or I don't respect them, I want to prove it's great. And both of those situations are like nightmares, because either I'm trying too hard, I'm not listening, I'm in my head. Terrible.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about our show, we did 2 shows in Birmingham, and at least for the first one, for sure, that was definitely, we talked about it as a team, like, we wanted to make that show good, and we couldn't do it, because we were trying to make the show good.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was tough. I remember straight after the show, everybody was like kind of a bit bummed out, and we just sat downstairs and
kept batting people away. No. very nice to meet you. I do want to talk to you. But we're like deconstructing why we hate ourselves for the next hour and a half.
Yeah, so many people came up to us and was like, "Hey, great show, guys!" And we very nice. I'm glad that we did it in a nice way. We weren't like dicks about it. Or I hope we didn't look like dicks about it.
No. We weren't dicks. They were. That's me playing up to being a dick. My character game.
What's an example of someone that you was trying to that you were that you had in a team, or someone that was watching that you were quite worried about, or not worried about? You know what I mean? Like, who were you trying to impress, basically?
I feel like both of the Edinburgh Improv Festival shows that I've done, I've been like, there's lots of really good improvisers that I respect here. They could be in the audience. I want to do a good show. And I know for the first couch show that we did, it was a week show, we all knew. It was probably because of that.
The couch show that you did in Edinburgh, the improv.
Not this year, like last year.
Oh, right, okay.
Like last year, that happened. This year, I think it was very under control. Like, Jazz Place and Couch, I feel like both did pretty good sets. Last year, Couch's set, the first one that I did, wasn't that great. The Inheritance did a set after that, which was just Couch again. And we did a better show, and it was because we were more chilled out. But still, it wasn't like optimal. We were like, there's these visiting teachers that we really respect. There's a bunch of people from around the UK who, you know, I want them to say that I'm good. I want people to know that I enjoy and I'm good at improv. So if they're in a room, I want to prove it to them. And that's a bad idea.
Yeah. I think the idea of needing to look good or needing to impress others is a really tough thing, but it happens, doesn't it? Especially when you're at that level, when you're not doing improv because you know, just because you like it. You're trying to get audiences to like it. You want an audience to really love it.
That's a really good observation. Like, you do hit a point. I think when you've done it for like decades, you're well over this. But after like, I don't know, first 5 to 10 years, you are like, right, I've been doing this for a while. I got to show that I can do like good shows. Like, there's like a business aspect where you're like, I want to get like booked to do workshops. I want to get booked to like do shows in different places. I need to prove to people that I'm good, because improv, more than a lot of other art forms, is like, anybody can do this. So while anybody can do a show, you want to be like, but you should take my team because we are actually good. You know, implicitly being like, everyone else is bad. You want to be like, we're good. But that is like a dangerous kind of thing, because you're now in your head about like, well, if we do a bad show, and that's like the bad part, like the part where you're like, I can't do a bad show, you try and control the show. If you're thinking like that on stage, you're just like, you're not listening, you're making really safe choices, or things you think are safe, like not making a choice at all, and it fucks the show, to use a technical term.
That's a good point. Business, the way you mentioned it was like your business head. You're thinking about it like a business thing. That is very true. Especially as we've hosted shows where we want the show to be good. Like if I've always come out of a show that where I book people and I'm at the back just really hoping that people look good.
Yeah.
And it's
because it's kind of your reputation too, a little bit.
Yeah, we've got nothing to lose either. Like the way I see it, it doesn't matter. Like it's a good thing that I charge like a $5 for like a 3 team show. Like that, I don't really care too much about the money. What I do care is like having, because it feels like an underground thing. It feels like you know, this is a thing that people aren't watching that much, or it's not in the mainstream. So you got nothing to lose in terms of money, but it's more a reputation of quality. It's
you only treat it like a show, like stand-ups, like are aghast at improv shows because like you're charging nothing for this, and like barely anybody's getting paid. Like if you want to treat it like a comedy show with an audience, you got to charge money, and the show has to be to some level, like to a standard. Like you can't just be to a paying audience. Sorry, improv is about having fun.
Yeah, that's a good point, because it's like there's such thing as wanky improv, which sort of always comes into my head, where you as a performer think that whatever you do on stage is going to be fine or is going to be great. Like, that to me just feels very arrogant. Like, the audience we've said it before on this channel, but like, the audience are one of the are if not the most important thing about doing it. You're looking for their response. Of course, you want to have fun. You want to enjoy it. You want to play off each other and do the best that you can, and because you're being spontaneous. But at least half of your brain, or you've got to at least make sure that the audience are being looked after, or you're listening to them laughing.
It's definitely like, you kind of need. So this is like, I've said this before a lot. Like, the problem with improv is like, you very frequently come into situations which is like, you have two conflicting pieces of information or like tips, and they seem to directly contradict each other, but they are both true. That's like true here. Like, you do have to like kind of get on stage being like, I don't care about this show. I'm going to try stuff. I don't care if it's good or bad. I'm just going to like do the show. But you also have to be, you need to show up. You need to like do your best, the best show you can do. And like, even just formal stuff, like be there on time. Like, maybe don't be super drunk. Like, hilariously low barriers to meet, but actual stuff that, like, if it was just like having fun with friends, like, maybe you wouldn't do that stuff. You turn up late, you get shit-faced, like, you're not acting on stage as if you're just having fun. Especially, like, depending on what kind of, like, number of years you've been doing it, you know? If you've been doing it for, like, 3 decades, maybe you are just having fun, like, hanging out with your friends, but you just got, like, decades of experience, so you're probably not going to do, like, a bad show. But, I don't know, if you've been doing it for 10 or even 20 years, I'd be like, you probably still need to, like, show up.
Yeah, that's a good point. Going back to feeling worried or trying to impress other people, that's one thing that I try and remind myself whenever I see like someone I respect in the audience or someone really cool that I'm performing with, is that I'm here to have fun. That's first and foremost. Like, I've got to support my teammates and listen to the audience and take care of them, but in order to out of that, self-loathing zone, or feeling bad about yourself, is that you're there to have fun first.
I think about deliberately to fix this problem, because it happens to me. I think about like certain performers, not even like my favorite performers, but like performers that I think of who are like, they do great shows all the time, and my default when I'm in that situation, my gut is to be like, I don't want to be a big part of the show. I just want to like support and do stuff like that. But whenever I think about like the kind of people I'm thinking about, an example I'm thinking about is like John Gemberling. Like, when he's in an improv show, like, he is silly. He's like coming into like any scene he wants. He's just having fun, and I'm like, that is what I kind of have to do. Even if I can't feel like embarrassed about doing a bad scene, I need to like, to combat this on some level, I need to like think of this as like, maybe this is the John McInnes show. Like, not all shows are, but like, maybe this one is. Maybe I'm going to be in like every fucking scene.
Yeah, because even if you are doing something kind of shitty, at least it's there and it's honest and it's in front of the audience.
Yeah.
You know? It like, maybe one of your teammates might be like, oh, he didn't listen to what I said, or he didn't remember my name, but you as a character are established, and that is better than coming in very timid to try and support and try and like overwork everything. So I guess
it's literally just confidence. I think like seeing somebody unconfident on stage is a nightmare. It never works.
Absolutely, you like a regular audience member who doesn't know anything about improv. It's their first show ever. They immediately know who is nervous in an improv show. And you can tell from a mile away who it is. And that you're already, in my book, that's like 50%. You're done. You're like, that's it for you. You can try and bring it back, but like that's hard.
You can be too confident where you're like just steamrolling, but honestly, if you're funny, the audience doesn't really care about steamrolling. Sorry, but it's true.
Wow, that's a big opinion.
I mean, the audience don't care about like stand-ups being like arseholes. They laugh at it. So if you're, I mean, like it's like so like a lot of, I hear a lot of people say examples about like Chris Farley when he was doing IO. Like he was an improviser. He had an improv background. Like in particular, like he looked up to teachers like Dale and other people in Chicago and wanted to do good improv. And he could do good improv, but also other people who played it with him would be like, actually, he was like really selfish and it was almost impossible to do scenes with him.
Yeah.
But they were like, it didn't matter because he is like the funniest person on stage. Like, who cares? Right. If somebody's like an asshole and they're not funny, like, you can't tolerate it. But if they're funny, if I'm on stage with somebody and they're like, they're coming into every scene, they're walking all over me, they're ignoring my initiations, but they're funny, I'll still do some shows with them.
No, you're
in fact,
right.
I can think of at least one example where this is 100% true. Where I'm like,
I have one as well.
Yeah, this person, technically, it is very hard to do scenes with this person, but I think they're super funny, so I don't really care.
Yeah, I had a similar one where I performed with people before who were like very intelligent, very very quick, but they're not supporting everybody else. They forget so much stuff, but the audience are with them every time. So the only person that's getting upset about it is you. Like it would be a completely different story if the audience weren't taking part in it or they didn't like him at all.
It would be perfect if we were both thinking about each other. That's exactly.
McInnes, when have I ever thought you were intelligent and witty?
I mean, you got me there.
I do have a question that from somebody. This is actually a question from the Improv Boost.
Okay. Hello, David. Hello, David.
It's David Escobedo, I believe. If it was him or somebody that works with the Improv Boost, they're a lovely bunch of people. They sort of boost the influence of other improv communities in the UK.
It does what it says on the tin.
It does what it says on the tin, Improv Boost. But this is a question that they asked like last week, but we didn't get around to it. Okay. The question.
Then I don't say hi to David because I don't know if he's watching that. I thought he was watching. I no longer say hi.
Oh no! Just keep the hi on hiatus for a little second.
I'm going to edit out the hi earlier.
The question is, how do we get more gender diversity in positions of influence in improv?
Well, obviously we're experts on this. Like we're two dudes.
Absolutely.
That's a good question. Like there's too many men. Make it comfortable, like comfortable in the sense of, like if someone's been a creep, like be really aggressive to like as an organization, like just go hard on them. Like they don't have rights. If somebody's a creep, get rid of them like aggressively. Let them go and find somewhere else to play. You know, make everybody feel comfortable. I mean, you can have like if it's somebody who's like new to improv, maybe they're just like it's fascinating to work with people who are new to improv because like you get like a real insight into like their real human brain. They aren't able to hide who they are at the start, so they can like initiate stuff that is like just like really insulting, but like they don't realize it because they aren't intending to do anything. They're just like saying whatever comes to mind. But unfortunately for them, what's coming to mind is making them look like what they are, which is probably like more sexist than they want people to know. Like they're making women like mums and hookers all the time. All their scene initiations are maybe like sleazy. You gotta like you should have a conversation with them. Maybe like a conversation in class where you're like, okay, guys, like let's talk about why. Let's talk about like during this workshop that it was weird that like all of the women were forced to like support initiations rather than initiate anything. You can have that conversation, calling it out.
Like, calling that shit out in the classroom, in front of everybody. It
doesn't have to be like what the whole workshop's about, although there's some merit to having those kind of workshops. If you've got like something you're working on or you've got like a title for the workshop, you can like just take a diversion, as you often do during workshops, and talk about it. I guess that's my first thing coming to mind. Is there anything coming to your mind right now?
Two things actually. One is something that, jumping off what you were saying about how you see somebody doing improv, you get to see a little bit about them, about who they are as a real person. I think you as a teacher, you've always got an eye on that, but I think you start realizing that in like the 5th class they do. So like the first class, I always think that's down to nerves. You should nip things in the bud, like you said, but you really start to understand who.
It's a good point.
Like,
yeah. Once you've given them the note, if they're not doing anything with it, it's kind of like they're choosing to be that.
It's just them as a person, and like after classes or something, you speak to them socially, and you start to understand. It's like, this. But that being said, some of the people that have come out as like creeps in improv are people that you just don't. You just never thought. You just never thought of.
Yeah, you can only do what you can only do. You can only do what you can with the information that you got.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're obviously having like a fascinating, veiled conversation about like actual stuff we've had to deal with in the past.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's been a lot as well, which is a real fucking shithole. That moves on to my second point, which is I think in terms of positions of influence, it always starts in the first course. Well, I'm talking about courses.
Yeah.
That's like the influence of the teacher of keeping their eyes on everything. You're not just looking for, like for example, the first course of any improv school shouldn't be, let's find what the joke is, let's see what the game is and stuff like that. It should be looking at how people are performing with each other.
Okay.
Taking things on, why did you say it like this? Why did you say that? And like, I think you're right. Aggressively saying stuff like, no, shut up, don't say that, is and leading as well. As a teacher, you should be leading in that force. If someone is getting bullied in a scene and they don't realize it, and the other person is, like, for example, there was a scene, I don't remember where this was, or somebody else told me about this, but there was like a guy who was doing a scene with a woman, and he was asking her, oh baby, do this lap dance on me, and stuff like that can sort of go over people's head because both people are nervous and everybody's laughing, but the moment that shit happens, you've got to just sort of stop it and be like, all right, what do you say to this, or why did you say that?
Like it can be super helpful just right up top to be like, you don't know each other, so like don't put each other in uncomfortable positions,
Yeah.
But like there is a challenge there because, so like if you're super comfortable with somebody else, and like you've been doing improv for a while, you could totally do that scene and it would be funny and everybody involved would enjoy it. But it's really just like that you don't trust the other person really. Like you don't know who they are. There's a real like problem with improv that like it forces you to have to trust each other. But the person you're trusting, you don't know them, and like they could be like just an awful person. So like the rules of improv are putting you in a position where you need to like depend on somebody who could be like just a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
So like you got to have that conversation where you're like, look, I'm not saying that you guys can't do like a scene that has like potentially weird material in it, but just within these classes, make choices that are like not weird. Like we all know that was weird. We were laughing because it was weird probably. So let's not do that.
Yeah. So how do you think we can get more gender diversity in positions of influence? So obviously, like nipping shit in the bud. Is there anything else that comes to mind?
I mean, there's obvious stuff like try and like put women in charge of stuff. Like that helps. Like often organizations are looking for like artistic directors, academic directors, like people on teams, stuff like this. Like you can't fix society, but you can try and like at least have some level of representation on your team when you can. You can't fix. You are somewhat limited. Like depending on where you are and what size like your community is, it depends, you know. But, like, within the constraints of who turns up to your classes, and you can do, like, better in that regard, probably. And, like, you could probably extend your base in various ways, you know, like if you're pitching to like stand-ups and stand-up comedy nights for people to come to workshops, maybe it's going to skew more male because women feel uncomfortable staying out alone at like stand-up comedy nights in a way that men don't. So like, what's another place that you can advertise for people? I mean, like, we're saying this like we've solved this problem because we have. BLC is a paragon of equality. You can tell that because it is like every race, every gender, all of everything you can imagine. That's BLC.
I really hope so. But it's I like positions of like making those making like having a variety of gender and races right there, front and center, like having them teach, having them be in shows, like that's where people are going to be seeing that. And I think a lot of people don't see it in improv because they do just see white guys with beards, like us, John.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, like, we had to kick Ross out for this conversation because we're not having chicks on our improv discussion.
Oh no!
I mean, that was your rule, John. I'm just going along with it. But like you can, so it's worth observing that like a lot of places that kind of have like that skew like heavily male, like for instance like a lot of stand-up comedy nights, often what they'll say is like, hey, I'm just putting on like the best people possible, and it has some aspects to that. Like all improv is like largely subjective. You kind of go like, you can't just put somebody on stage like just because like we need more women, like let's just like put all women on the stage. I'm not saying you can't have a team of all women. I'm just saying like if you're putting people who are not, like we were talking about earlier, like hitting some level of standard that you need to like sell shows and workshops, you're doing a disservice to them. You're like tokenizing them, women or like anybody else from any kind of like non-white male bearded backgrounds. Like if they aren't good enough, it is not helpful to put them on stage. But the point that is often missed, especially in comedy circle, is like that like gap between like who is good for a team or a show or like a teaching position. Like it's pretty big. Like there is the people who are great at comedy and improv. Like there's not a lot of them. There's like a handful. Then there's like people who are pretty good, and that's like quite a lot of people. But like, it would be surprising if like the truly great people at improv, like that's a question I'll pivot into like a little bit from this. Like Gallagher, how many people do you think in the UK right now are like the best? Like what do you think the number would be? Not like good, not even like they're really good or a really good team. The people that you would be like, in the same way that like if I asked you like who's the best comedians, you could like name like a number of them.
Yeah, they're all.
What is the number that you think is in the UK right now? I've not thought about this question, and half my brain's trying to like figure out what number sounds right to me.
I guess it goes with who you've seen and what your style is or what you enjoy. But for me,
it's all subjective. But yeah, what's your thing?
Man,
I personally would say it would shock me if there was more than 4. In the UK, like the great, truly great, it would shock me. And I'm not saying that like I only think there's 4 great improvisers in the UK. Not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying like within like the S tier, like the absolute best improvisers possible in the UK, like the people who are the funniest and the most supportive of all of them. It would surprise me if that number was super big.
I have a feeling like if you put those 4 people in a team, they'd be terrible.
Not the 4 I'm thinking of.
Well, the 4 that you're thinking. Well, that's the thing. What I was thinking of was like who do I think like sells shows and is deemed who who do people think they're funny? Well, who people think are hilarious and really great improvisers from like polls and bollocks like that? And honestly, I could think of about 8. I could think about more, probably like 10 or 8. But in my head, I'm thinking if I get all those 8 or 10 people together in a team, they would be shit. They would be really bad. So I think you're right. I think if I had to be really harsh, it would probably be something like 5 that would work well together. I'm thinking about it not as individuals, but like working together as a, because those to me are the best improvisers. The ones that could literally work with anybody and are hilarious at the same time.
Yeah.
And in the UK, it would probably be about 5.
Yeah, it's not like, it's not a question of like, oh, if you're supportive, you're not funny. We're saying like the greatest, so like they can do it all. They are amazingly funny. They are great support. They can do pattern game openings. They can do any kind of bullshit that you want to say. It's not a big number. There are people, but this is the point. Like, after that, after like the S tier, there is like, I would say like hundreds of like truly great improvisers just in the UK. Yeah. So like, if you're talking about like representation within that band, like they're pretty. It shouldn't all be men. Like they're all kind of like within this quality tier, basically the same kind of people.
Yeah.
Now, are those 4 white males with beards? Are they me, you, Gallagher, and 2 other people? Possibly. I guess that would be my biases. Like I have biases, of course.
If I do make your top 4 list, I would be very happy. I'll
tell you now, you don't.
No. Didn't have to say it.
I'm trying to like think of like who those 4 are, like in specific detail. I generally know who they are, or like what the number kind of like is based on like big handful estimations. But I'm definitely like taking whole teams that I think are really great, and I'm just being like, nah, you're all good improvisers, but would I? Here's like the test, like, would I pay like 20 quids to go and see you at a show? It's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think anybody who just says that we're just we couldn't get any women on the show, or we couldn't get any female teachers because there just aren't any, and I've heard that before in communities, which is insane to me. Yeah. But it just means that you're not looking hard enough, because there really are some great people. Some of my favorite improvisers aren't even improvisers. They're just like audience members who can really tell you what, like it's like what we were telling about coaching. Like a really good audience member can like coach.
Yeah.
Or sit in a team's session and tell you exactly where you're going wrong. It's like it's not about. I don't think it's about like how you are, especially with teaching. You don't have to be the funniest when you're teaching. You just have to be the most responsive to.
You gotta be really good at listening. That's like the base rule.
That's the main thing.
I mean, you guys support, but like, even if you didn't choose to do stuff that would support people, you just like see everything. Listening to me is like seeing everything that happens, like noting it all. Yeah. And then not even necessarily saying all those notes, but like saying the ones that like matter.
Yeah.
Anyway, the whole point like that was going on that kind of like weird discussion was like, I mean, a very common thing within a lot of communities is like teams, building house teams, and it would shock me if like anybody who would ever watch this video would be like, one of those amazing people are in your community. So like, get used to the idea that like, kind of you could put almost anybody in.
Yeah, yeah. I've got another question.
Okay.
This is from Laura Hughes. She says,
Hello.
She asks, as a teacher, have you ever been conflicted between watching a scene that you're enjoying as an audience member, but knowing it's not appropriate in the rules of improv?
That's interesting. I'm super judgy. I'll watch it, scene that the entire audience is laughing at, and be like, "This is shit. What's going on?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I am frequently deeply conflicted with that. There's nothing that can. I mean, I do like try and think about like, what does that say about me? Like, am I just ignoring like what is clearly working? So sometimes you're right. Like, there's like if you're just looking for like rules and technicality. I mean, sometimes you can be so in improv that is what you're looking for. You kind of got to step back and just be like, oh, I'm just like watching a show. I would say one of the things that makes me a pretty good like coach is like I almost cannot turn that part of my brain off. Like I could only watch shows being like. I mean, I can enjoy it as an audience member, but even as an audience member, I'm so judgy. I'm like, there's so many people, like even stand-ups that are killing, really like successful, like people doing great in the circuit. I'm like, this is like cliche shit. Like I hate this, and other stand-ups will love it too. I mean, that's my coaching superpower. I'm judgy. That doesn't mean like if somebody follows the rules that I'm going to think is a good show. I'll still be like, what? I don't care about this.
Yeah. You sort of you sort of turn off, don't you? You just like I don't care if people are laughing. I don't know. I think I think maybe if I'm watching a show and somebody does something like they break a rule, I'm not looking for. I'm trying to look at like okay, when I'm watching a show, I can see the specifics of. I can be quite judgy as well, and I can see the specifics of something that has happened very well and something that didn't go too well. But then after the show, I like talking about it as a whole because what I find more and more.
Are we talking about like if our role is the coach?
We're just no as an audience member.
Okay.
For an audience member. What I find when I'm looking back on a show is that sometimes those little errors sort of they're there, but there's a lot of good stuff that's happening as well. So, for example, if you're watching a show and somebody's not being very supportive to one improviser, like they've come in and you're just immediately like, shut up, like
I'm laughing.
Right. It's that could be.
I mean, I'm laughing, but I'm in the scene because I definitely said that.
Because you definitely, I was thinking of you in when I was saying.
I'm not just like blocking or denying. I am laughing on stage at my denial.
Right. So if you do that, for example, in the scene, you could say that's very unsupportive of McInnes. What the fuck is he doing? He's not a team player. But then when everybody comes in and starts making that part of the game, like this guy he's just getting bullied in a very specific type of way. Then that and that's funny. Like you can see the patterns in that. It just goes to show that sometimes you can take some rules out and you can as a whole.
The scene isn't like fucked just because somebody didn't follow a rule. The group can work, or even like the person who isn't being supported can do things in a scene that make the scene like work regardless of what the other person's doing. We were talking about that last week a lot. How like you got to be able to do a scene like. Your scene partner can be a basketball. You still got to do like a good scene.
Yeah.
I do. If I watch, I'm bad for this. Like if I do watch this, let's say I watch a scene. Let's say I watch a scene, and somebody like sets up clear base reality, and someone's like, "Nope," and also you're crazy. The scene can still work. There's ways to get around that 100%. But I'll judge the person that denied it. I'll watch them in future scenes, and I'll be like, "You're a liar. You're getting laughs, but it's because your team are working their ass off."
Yeah. I will personally find individuals to be these types of players, ones that make more mistake than others, and mostly I like if they do like a funny scene. Yeah. I'll love it, but in my mind, consciously, I'm thinking like,
and I will, and I'm not overthinking this, but what I do for sure after a show is like, when I'm talking about people I liked in a show, almost a part of my brain is like, talking about the people who I thought like made the show funny. They weren't necessarily the funniest, but the stuff they did for that show meant it worked. It's easy for an audience to like overlook who that person is. But like, you know, they might not be getting a lot of laughs. Like, I'll do that a lot, being like, oh, that person was really funny, and the person I'm saying is like, they were just playing a voice of reason the whole time. It was very easy to overlook how essential they were. I'm doing it for no other reason that I'm like, that person is like making the show work. People should know this.
Yeah, and you can do it while getting all the laughs or supporting and, like you said, voice of reason. That goes with talking about people that it just made me think of what we were talking about at the beginning, which was people we look up to and people we want to impress. Most of those people that I really respect and I really want to impress are people who are like, they are funniest the most. People say, oh, how can I be like an amazing improviser? And it is just like, you're gonna fuck up in shows.
I was just looking at the BLC like poster for like the event. I was like, we don't even have like diversity out of people called John right now. like it's not just that we're two bearded white men. Like, we don't even have a David. Like, hey, we had a Mark like recently. Like, he was a blonde-haired guy. That's different.
Oh no.
I mean, we had Philip last week, but that's beards right there. Brown hair again.
We're probably not the right people to be answering any of these questions, to be fair.
Apart from the questions about like how to do perfect improv, can answer that. Questions of diversity, cannot answer. Maybe there's something to be said about the fact that you're asking like us how to solve that. There's probably better placed people to solve that.
Yeah, it's the same with looking for. You know, it's the type of improv that you like watching. Maybe this isn't the type of improv that you like watching, and that's fine. There's other groups and there's other comedy nights that have that.
I interrupted you when I found it funny when I realised, oh, we're just Johns.
To be fair, what you did was you brought the banter bus back to the station.
Yes.
Didn't we promise that? We promised banter and laughs during this stream.
Beep beep. All aboard.
I was just going to make a point that most of the people that I look up to have failed, but they've succeeded more times than anybody else. So if you have, do you know what I mean? Like, you have two improvisers and one has failed 50 times and another person has failed 70 times. Chances are that I look up to the person who's failed less times because they are more consistently doing better shows.
Yeah.
It's just that. It's just how, and usually it's just older people. It's usually just people who've done so many fucking shows.
Yeah. I have a pet theory that like the best improvisers are people who have like failed out of something else in life. Like, my thing was music. Like, for years I was like a music guy. I basically failed out of it. I don't really do it as much. I mean, I barely do it anymore. In comparison to like releasing albums, doing tours, like that was a thing I did. Now I just failed out of that. And there's a lot of other people who do improv who they have completely different backgrounds. Like, even if it's just like they never did improv till they were like 30 and they were just like a boring accountant. Like, that is kind of like failing out of what your life was. Mm-hmm. The people who, I mean, this will be controversial, especially like because I come from a university improv background, and I mean you do too. But like the people who like do improv at uni and go out and keep doing improv, I think there's almost a ceiling of how good they can get because they don't have like. They haven't failed out of anything. It's a pet theory because I can't really like put my hands on like what the actual content of that theory is. But that is like, to be good at improv, you've got to like flame out in real life. You've got to know what that is. You've got to be like, I almost don't care about improv because I've cared about something else and it didn't work out.
So you're saying that people who are clinging on to improv are the ones that usually go on to do the best of it?
I just think people who do improv but have empirically like failed hard at some other life pursuit they tend to be better than people who have only done improv or only done comedy.
That's interesting. That's an interesting point.
I could just say life experience, but I don't think that's capturing what I mean.
Yeah, there have been people who have had different life experiences who are very good at improv, but they just have a different one.
Yeah.
It's not to say that they failed at it.
I like using the word fail.
I don't know if I know what you like. I get what you mean, but I don't know if I've noticed that. I don't think I've noticed that or thought of that before.
It's to some degree like that person kind of has to be honest with what they wanted in this other pursuit, you know. So I'm not even saying like, oh, if you play guitar, or if you've even like done an album, oh, you're a failure. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying like, if you wanted at any point like to be a professional musician, and you're not, you failed out of that. Like you had a goal and you didn't achieve it. If you wanted to be a professional footballer and you couldn't get signed, you failed at that. And there's nothing, I'm not even making a value judgment about it. I'm saying like, if that was your goal and you didn't achieve it, by your own definition, you might not like the words, but it is a failure of a kind. And I think those people are much better at improv than people who have not failed at anything. The people who drop out of uni, I think, tend to be pretty good at improv.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. That's the first time I've heard that. That's interesting. I'd say you made a point before that. You said like more of those people are honest with themselves. I think if you fail at something and you're honest that you failed it, you become a good improviser. I would turn it around and say honest. If you're an honest person, you're more likely to be a good improviser.
Yeah, and there's also like, well, the people who don't fail at stuff, like they're like delusional on some level. Like they just keep trying, even though like by any subjectively from the outside or objective from the outside measure, what are they doing? I don't know. It's a pet theory.
It's interesting. That's what the discussion, the banter bus discussion, is all about. Theories and talking bullshit, and somehow and somewhat answering people's questions. Do you have a final question, Mike McInnes? We'll end it on that.
Okay, yeah. I'm just like looking around my dinner table for like inspiration. I do. What's a question that I think about? I'm gonna make it specific to you because that'll help me. I'm also trying to figure out if like we've had this discussion or not. This is one of the problems of this show. Like, I'm now like, are we repeating ourselves? I don't want that to be true. How about this? Walk-ons. What's your views on it?
Walk-ons?
Yeah.
I like how you just picked something about improv, just like a regular tag in, or like
I've got a whole.
Explain.
You've seen my blog on it. Like, I've got like a well-defined theory about walk-ons, and the common ideological camps, which are no walk-ons in the first beat, don't do it, against walk-on if that seems time. Those are like, to me, those are like the broad camps. I can see the advantages of both.
Yeah. For me, walk-ons is...
And the first beat of a Harold, so like, let's constrict it to that, I guess.
Okay. Well, yeah, I prefer Harold's.
Because we've talked about like jams, like, in a jam, get in there, baby. No scene you can't walk into.
I'd say for Harold, for two people in first beats, yeah, I'm happy if it's just two people, because then you've got the time to really explore the characters. You want to explore the characters rather than anything else. In terms of walk-ons, the first thing that comes into mind, and one thing that I teach people is you only do a walk-on to serve the scene that's already in place. So you're not walking on to be a character or that has nothing to do with anything, or you're coming in to steal the spotlight. You're coming in to just serve what has already been established. And that could be in first beats. Like, I'm not saying you can't do
Okay. Let's follow this example then a little bit, because it's going to test your line. got two people in a scene. We're about a minute and a half in. It's not working. There's no laughter. The base reality. It's a Dell like manufacturing like workshop, like a computer workshop. One person in the scene is like they're like trying to make it like they think microchips are like animals. The other person is like they're like scared of the dark, and like both of them are trying to like. This is hard because like we don't have the scene, but like that's kind of the fake like scene that just isn't working. Like neither of them are like making this work.
Mhm.
Either like they keep flipping who's weird, or they're both weird at the same time, or neither of them are being clear enough about it. Like maybe the person who's like scared of the dark is not like saying that. They're just like a little spooked out by stuff, but like they're not making it clear. Or the microchips person, he isn't saying like I think they're animals. He's just like acting weird like towards them, like he's petting the computer, but he's not saying what he thinks it is. What
Right,
happens
so-
there?
So the danger here is that you've got two big games happening, and you don't know which
Yeah.
one you're going to use. One of
And
them,
I've got a move. I could walk in and do this, but the danger is like if I'm listening, if you're giving me that note, then maybe I shouldn't do it because like I think it'll like make this scene work. But I'm kind of taking focus of the scene.
what my note of saying that you have to serve the scene.
Yeah,
You can serve. So if you know both of those persons, the characters' games, you can come in and serve their games.
Mm.
Like you might take you could like when I say take focus, I'm not saying like okay. So for example, the first thing that comes into my head is the person who's afraid of the dark walk in as a employee and says hey, or like a maintenance person and be like hey, really quickly, I'm gonna test these lights out. They're going to be real quick. It'll only take a couple of seconds. Hope nobody's afraid of the dark. And then you just turn them off and click or whatever and see what happens. I'm not taking focus away from the characters themselves. I'm supporting their games.
Yeah.
Even though I'm coming in and taking focus of the scene right there and then, I'm in and out.
the reason this like just doesn't like, work is because like I'm telling you like what these games are, but like in my mind, in this scene, it's not obvious. Like they're not
Right.
doing what they need to. Like I can say like, he wants to be afraid of the dark. You're right. Like even if in the back line I make that choice, yeah, that could be fine. But like we're on the back line and we got no fucking idea what's going on with this scene. Like
Oh, I see. Okay.
they're both being weird occasionally. They're not saying what it is. I've seen that scene like 100 times. Like neither of them are saying what they think is weird, and the audience are like they're confused. They're not having fun.
Yeah.
Again, it's hard to do this without the scene like in front of us watched. But
Yeah, I know what you mean though. Like that sort of vague scene. Yeah.
I kind of want to like. I feel like I want to do a walk on. I think this is like taken from. Like I'm just trying to like do this without knowing what the games are. I
Okay.
think I want to do a walk on that's going to like recontextualize them, and it is going to take focus away a little bit. It's going to make like the factory a little bit strange. I think it's going to explain why these two are weird, but it's not really going to like be their thing because I don't know what their thing is. So, you know, a walk on that would work in that example is something like. You know, I'd walk on as their dad, and I'm like, yes, my idiot sons are running the factory. Like, not at all what they were doing, but it's fixing this scene to some degree. Like, I couldn't read their minds. What's your thought on that move? Like, it's not necessarily a great move, but I bet you there's a part of my brain that would make me do it.
That is definitely a move that you would definitely do.
I feel like I can't remember doing that move, but it is very John McInnes. To
That
walk
is
on
so-
as a dad, being like, my idiot sons are running the factory.
That is such a John McInnes move. That's still being supportive. Like you're not.
I agree.
Taking focus,
I
you're
agree.
Not taking focus you're not taking focus away from them. Like a really bad move would be coming on and being like, "Hey boys, your daddy needs you now. Tie my shoelaces." But like you coming in and being like, "These are my idiot sons. They own the factory now." You're sort of establishing, if they've already said it. I'm guessing they've said that they're in a factory or they're in the Dell store, right? That you're using what they've given you. You're using the stuff that, even if it's really vague, as long as you are using the stuff that they are giving. Somebody coming in and taking focus away without using anything that's already been established is a bad move. Yeah. Using at least one thing that has been used, that to me is a support move. That's supportive of it.
Yeah, I agree. Even though there is a part of my brain which is like, I used to be super against this, but there's a part of my brain which is like, just let this scene die. Like,
no, I wouldn't do that.
The whole philosophy blog that I wrote was to say the opposite of that, which is like, no, if you're on the back line, you're in charge. You got to help them. Yeah. A part of me is like, they'll learn a lesson from not being open.
I definitely would. That probably yes in when you're coaching or you're rehearsing.
100%. Yeah. In a show, it'd be a little bit more brutal.
That would be
to be like, good luck with your bullet shit scene. I'm gonna go out and do a good one.
After a show, you just be like, all right, let's talk about this. So you guys clearly fucked up, and I just let you guys at it because, let's be honest, I couldn't help you.
I didn't want to take focus from you guys.
Yeah.
I agree. I 100% agree. Like that, I would do that, but there is a part of me that's like, I can understand the philosophy, which is like you guys just like, you gotta get used to doing bad scenes. Can't be reliant on your back line to save you.
Yeah, in a training scenario, that would make sense. I think it sort of depends on what the two players would say. If they were genuinely offended by you coming in, then I don't know, maybe it wasn't a good move, but at the same time, they weren't establishing shit enough. So it is then.
I would say that's a very common thing. They're like, I think it's somewhat common that like, if a scene isn't really working and you talk about it afterwards, I mean, maybe this isn't really for experienced improvisers, maybe, but like, it is definitely within the first couple of years, they'll come out with something like, I don't know, I was getting to it. Like, they'll be like, I don't know, I'm getting to it.
Not a fan of that. Like, you gotta, like...
Okay, how about this? What if the walk-on is like, okay, and cut. I'm the director, this is a play. You're fixing it, you're helping.
Yeah, but that's not really an improv move. That's more just like storytelling in general. The idea of it was all a dream, or it was all just part of a movie. It's just like I've done those scenes before, and I always regret them because they just sort of stop everything.
I can understand. I understand the what you're trying to do. You know, you're like, this is so dumb. It would be funny to label this scene as a bad movie. That's kind of the game. It's kind of the game you're trying to hit on. It almost never works. Nearly never.
In my experience, every time I've done this, my entire team just give me that look, which is like, fucking hell.
And the audience are like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just a big cop out. I mean, you are in a way you're coming in with a walk on, but it's less of an improv move and more of just like the scene in general, just like good scene work or good storytelling.
All this question is trying to fix is like a very common piece of advice that I agree with is like, if you did a bad first beat, that's fine because you can initiate a second beat that's like a new scene kind of. If it was just a genuinely bad first beat, initiate a good like the first scene was an opening. Initiate almost a new premise. You've got almost nothing to lose. It would be a really bad move, in my opinion, if that first scene didn't work and you were like, "Oh, I'll just do it," and I'll just that doesn't work for me because nobody was liking what you were doing, so don't do it again. Like,
Oh, for like a second, like if 1A wasn't that great, you
Yes.
can do a completely new thing for 2A.
that's a not an uncontroversial opinion and one I stick to. I don't want to see a bad second beat of a bad first scene. Nobody wants to see it. There's no reason to do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it is a piece of advice I've read and I agree with. Bad first beat, okay, initiate. Like that first scene was like a deconstruction opening, start there. And do something new, a premise that's funny. So if I watch this amazing in a Dell factory, microchips might be animals and somebody might be scared of the dark. Maybe the initiation I would try for a second meet would be maybe it would just be like that walk-on move, like, okay, guys, we have to talk about our idiot sons and how we put them in charge of all of our factories. As the CEO of McDonald's, it's a brand new premise. It wasn't in that first scene. But
you took a bit of detail from that first scene.
This is the core of the question I want to get to. Like, is it better to just save that for a second beat, or like just do it in the first beat? I don't have a good answer for it.
No, I completely agree with that. I agree that if the first scene isn't going too well, and you go and you do your second beat of that, then totally go in a completely new direction if you wanted to. If no one's laughing and it wasn't going anywhere, and we were talking about this before.
This is kind of going back to the first discussion. Like, we are kind of measuring off the audience.
Yeah,
Improv is kind of like about you, your scene partner, and the audience. If only you and your scene partner are on the same page about what's fun, it's not working.
Absolutely. And if it's not working and you hear the audience not laughing and nobody's coming in to support you, then you're more than welcome to start a completely new thing. But I don't think it should be random. I think it should have something to do with the first scene.
It should clearly be really, like, you don't want to turn the Harold into like a montage. You do want to be like, this is connected.
Forcing an analogous beat on that is just you're just adding weights. You're just adding weights to the already unfunny scene.
That's a super common thing I see with people learning the Harolds. Like, they do second beats, and the first beat wasn't funny, and they just do, like, they try and do a second beat of an unfunny first beat when they could just initiate a new premise.
Absolutely. I think that's a good way to end it, McInnes.
Yeah.
Telling people that they should fucking chill out about the Harold.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the lesson is, like, give up on scenes early.
Yes. Thank you for watching this. If you're watching this on the live stream, thank you. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you.
If you're watching this on Instagram, how?
Don't know how. We don't like Instagram.
If you're watching this on Periscope, it's actually called Twitter nowadays.
McInnes, do you want anything? You want to plug? You want to plug?
Oh, I'm sure the people watching this know. I do a Tuesday night show at 7 o'clock, British summer time, with my Glasgow team Couch. We do a Spotify soundtrack thing. You pick songs, we do scenes. Try and make it hard. And the Billy Boys, 7 p.m. British summertime. Me, you, and a guest. We do stories from our life. Now it's in Armando. Only improv nerds are watching this. You know what it is. It's in Armando.
Lovely. Yes, I am in a team called Boat Club. We perform.
I didn't ask.
The banter bus is still going, ladies and gentlemen. It's still going. Every Monday on YouTube at 6:30. Boat Club improv team with me and my two mates. We have funny times. We have funny. Also, next week we'll be back here on Wednesday, just after the Billy Boy show with a guest. We'll have a new guest and we'll have another live stream discussion all about improv, all like everything that we've been talking about. Leave questions, give us questions to answer, and we will do so. Beep beep.
That's the banter bus taking off.
Sweet, I did fame.